Hey guys, Josh here. Not long ago, I made a video taking a first look at a game called Worth Life, which released for the Nintendo Switch in the West on July 14, 2022. I had a fun time with the game. I've had the chance to play quite a bit since my last video, and today I wanted to do a proper review to give you my thoughts on this game, as I think it really deserves it. I'll talk about the graphics, atmosphere, and story of the game. Then I'll talk about the different gameplay mechanics, and hopefully this will help you decide if this game is worth it or not for you. I'll put timestamps for the different sections of the review, so feel free to take a look at those and jump around the video if you need. And let's start by establishing what kind of game this is. Worth Life is an action RPG with some life simulation elements, and it is developed and published by Hakama Inc., the studio behind Rune Factory 5. It's also produced by Yoshifumi Hashimoto, who worked on many Story of Seasons games and all of the Rune Factory games. However, for some reason, maybe a lack of marketing or a smaller budget, there's really not much information on this game out there and very few reviews, which is part of why I really wanted to make this video so people can at least know this game exists. Also, it's good to know that this game is on the cheaper side, selling for $24.99 US or $31.49 Canadian dollars on the eShop, and it is only available digitally, so there's no physical version for this game. But just keep in mind, if you are considering buying this game, don't go in expecting a 100-hour experience or tons and tons of features. It is a smaller game, but sometimes there is a lot of fun to be had with smaller experiences. So now let's start talking about the game, and the first thing I would like to discuss, and that might be what will divide some people about this game, are the graphics and art direction. So the game has a very cartoony and colorful hand-drawn art style. For some people, this might make the game look maybe cheap or childish, but I think it's really a matter of personal preference. For me, I do really enjoy it, and the more I played, the more I appreciated the style. What I like the most is that every region, every area in the game looked completely different from each other with different themes, and for me, it kept things interesting during the whole playthrough. I'll only show the first 3 regions in this video, as I think part of the fun in this game is discovering what each one looks like, but they're all filled with details, the backgrounds are a joy to look at, and while there's nothing really impressive or out of this world, you can tell that a lot of love and care went into the art of this game. It's definitely not a style for everybody, so if right away you don't like what you see, maybe this game is not for you because you'll have to deal with this art style for the whole playthrough. But if you appreciate it or if you don't mind it, then you might want to give the game a try. Also, another fun thing to note is that the character and monster design was done by Igusa Matsuyama, who drew the characters for most of the Story of Seasons game, so you may see a familiar style to the characters. All of the most important characters look very unique and quirky. However, I do have to say the secondary characters and monsters, while they still look interesting, are mostly simply recolored or sometimes look exactly the same from one area to the other, so you'll often end up seeing the same monsters and the same characters. I would have liked to see a bit more variety in that department, but it also didn't bother me too much, and overall, I really enjoyed how this game looked, and that really contributed to my enjoyment of the game. I also really enjoyed the sounds of this game. Every region has a different music that fits the atmosphere and contributes to the cute and cozy feel of the game. Since all regions and tracks are different, you never really get tired of hearing one specific track, as the game will have you move pretty quickly from one region to the next. It helps make the game feel varied, even though, as I'll talk about a bit later, the game can be a bit repetitive, so it's good that at least the areas look different and the music is different. And besides the music, the sound design as a whole I think is great. From the cute Animal Crossing-like voices and dialogues to the sound effects when you swing your sword, or the children cheering when you beat an enemy, everything is very bubbly and very cute, and it really goes along well with the art style of the game to offer a fun and relaxing experience. So now I'd like to talk a bit about the story. So the first thing you'll do is pick your character. There's not really any customization there, but you can select between the boy or the girl character. So that character is chosen by the king among 29 other people to be part of the Exploration Corps. And the task of the Exploration Corps is to restore the light to some special crystals in temples that are located all around the kingdom. And if the light is not restored, it is said that the kingdom will perish. So you will adventure from one place to the next, find ways to restore the light, and as you do that, you will encounter a variety of interesting characters and learn a bit more about the things that are happening in the world. But don't expect any deep story or character development here. It is a pretty simple story. However, I did find it quite fun and relaxing to just follow along. The dialogues never go on for too long, they're often quite humorous and lighthearted, and for the most part, will tell you what you have to do next to progress in the game. So like everything so far, the story is simple, it's cute, but it works perfectly for what the game is trying to achieve. And that brings me to the next point I would like to talk about, which is the main gameplay loop. So here's how the game plays. So first you will be told to go to one region, and in order to unlock access to that region, you'll often have to talk to a few people or complete some simple quest. So then you're gonna go to that new region, there will be a first area filled with monsters, and you'll have to do some basic platforming and fighting to go through that first area. After that first area, you'll typically have 2 town areas where you can chat with NPCs, buy new items and upgrade your equipment, you can heal yourself, and once you're ready to continue, you will reach the temple outskirts, where you will have to eliminate all of the monsters in order to open the gate to the temple. After entering the temple, a priest will tell you that people in the region have lost faith in the goddess, and that you need to help them if you want to restore light to the crystal. So you'll go back to the 2 town areas, and now many of the NPCs will have some quests to give you. The priest will also have given you the rights to the land on the temple outskirts, so if you go back there, you'll be able to grow crops, do some fishing, gather resources, and more, which will be necessary to help the NPCs and restore the light. Once you've helped everybody, the light will be restored to that region's crystal, and then you'll move to the next region. So while there are a few twists here and there, this is the core gameplay loop of the game, so it can get a little bit repetitive. It actually kind of reminded me of a children's storybook, where every chapter the story follows the same pattern, and it becomes somewhat predictable. However, somehow it also feels comforting, everything is simple and easy to digest, but the differences between each region also makes you want to keep going and see what's next. Every region will take between 1 and 2 hours to complete, depending on your pace and the difficulty level you're playing at, so it's a really good game to play in small sessions. I finished it in about a week, doing 1 region per day before going to bed, and honestly every day I was looking forward to playing, seeing what the next region would look like, and restoring 1 more crystal. It might feel repetitive if you're going through the whole game in one go. I don't think it's the best way to enjoy this game, but if you break it up in small sessions like I did, just like 1 chapter a day, it is a very balanced experience, and every day will feel like an experience that is similar enough so you don't have to wonder what to do next and you don't feel lost or confused, but it's also different enough to still feel fun. As you play, you'll be doing 4 main activities that are divided into 4 skills. So there's hunting, farm work, communication, and fishing. I will explain how each of them works, and that should give you a pretty good idea of how the game actually plays. The first skill is hunting, so each region, as I said, has a few areas with monsters, and hunting will probably be what you'll spend most of your time doing. There's 1 button to attack with a sword, and another button to attack with a bow and arrow. That's pretty much it. You can also jump, which is useful for avoiding attacks from monsters. It's all extremely simple, and I was not expecting much out of this combat system at first. However, I do have to admit I was pleasantly surprised at how challenging it could be at times. Of course, that will depend on the difficulty level, so you can change the enemy strength between normal, hard, and master, but especially in the later stages, you really do have to pay attention to where the enemies are located, their patterns, and just overall be careful with your moves and think about what you're doing, because you can get killed in 2 to 3 hits, at least on hard mode, so it's really easy to die in this game. So even though the combat looks very simple, it can be quite fun and challenging, so I think that's a good point. But there's nothing really too complex here, and that's pretty much it for the hunting. The second skill is farm work, so after you're done beating all of the monsters in the temple outskirts, the priest of the region will give you access to the land where you'll find some vacant plots. Using your hoe, you'll be able to cultivate those plots and plant some seeds. You will unlock new seeds as you progress in the story, and each type of seed will produce a slightly different crop in each region. For example, later on in game, you might unlock the potato seeds, but planting potatoes in the 3rd region will give you a different type of potato than if you planted them in the first one. So there is some incentive to go back and plant all of the different seeds in all of the regions, especially if you want to unlock all of the cooking recipes. Crops don't need to be watered in this game and will be fully grown after 1 in-game day, which only takes a few minutes. Days are very quick in this game. You can then harvest them and use them for cooking, which is useful to give temporary stat boosts or to complete some quests, or you can also use them to upgrade your equipment, which I'll talk about a bit later. That's pretty much it for farming. You can also collect wood and stone with your axe and pickaxe through a simple minigame where you have to just press at the right time, and if you get the timing right, you'll get more resources. Next we have fishing. So as I said previously, you'll have a few vacant plots on your land, and you can cultivate them with your hoe, but if you'd like, you can also dig them with your shovel, and that will create ponds. You can then use your fishing rod on these ponds to get some fish. There's another minigame for this where there's a little fish in the bar and you have to go over the fish, and then you need to press at the right time to aim in the circles. I feel like my explaining isn't really good, but once you do it, you'll understand it's pretty simple. And just like crops, fish can be used either for cooking or upgrading your equipment, and each region will give different fish. Before we talk about our last skill, I would like to talk a little bit about the building. So instead of cultivating the soil for crops or digging a pond for fish, you'll also be able to build a house using the wood and the stone. That will allow you to invite an NPC to live in that house, and every day they will be able to collect some resources for you, either crops, fish, or some other items. So that is a way to automate resource gathering and reduces the need to always go back and forth between all of your different farms. Now the last skill in this game is communication. So as you progress through the story, you will meet some special characters who you can interact with by giving them gifts or hanging out once a day. If you decide to hang out with them, they will be saying different things, and you'll have to select the proper emotion to respond with, such as excited, happy, angry, or sad. The more appropriate your responses are, the more your relationship will improve. It's honestly not a very difficult minigame, but I found it pretty cute and just a nice change from the rest of the game. Once a relationship is maxed out, that character will start giving you items every day, just like those characters you built houses for. And whether you pick the male or female appearance for your character, it doesn't have any impact on who you can interact with. And you can max out all of your relationships with all of the characters, so I definitely recommend you do that for more daily items. So every time you level up your hunting, farm work, fishing, or communication skills, your character will level up, increasing its maximum health point as well as maximum appeal. So it's generally a good idea to do a bit of everything if you want your character to be more efficient and a higher level. And I just mentioned the appeal system, so you're probably wondering what it is, so let's talk about that. In each town, you can talk to a fortune teller to equip different appeals, which you will unlock as you progress and do certain things in the game. So appeals are passive buffs like increased experience gained, increased strength, increased monster drops, things like that. Each appeal will cost a certain amount of points, so the higher your level is, and the more maximum appeal you have, the more different appeals you'll be able to equip. Also, each time you die, you will get a negative appeal, which could be something like increased prices in shops or slower attack speed. If you die multiple times in a row, these will accumulate on top of each other, so they can get pretty bad. However, you can get them removed for free by talking to the fortune teller. But also one thing to keep in mind is that if you keep them, they actually increase your maximum appeal by 1. So you could decide, for example, to keep going with a few negative appeals if the extra maximum appeal points they give you allow you to get one very good positive appeal. Another little thing is that the amount of points an appeal cost can change at any time. For example, one appeal I really like is called Handsful, and it increases the movement speed of my sword's attack, so I think that's really good. It costs 10 points, so it is pretty expensive, but sometimes it can drop to 5 points or go up to 15 points. If I manage one day to get it for 5 points, then of course I can get more appeals with my remaining points, but the next time I want to change my appeals, for example, if I die and I want to remove one of the negative appeals, it is possible that the Handsful appeal will go back to 10 or even 15 points, so I would then have to rearrange all of my appeals again to bring it back under my maximum. It sounds kind of complicated, but it's really not that much. It just adds a tiny layer of strategy to a game that is overall fairly simple. So I found the appeal system pretty fun. I love how all of these mechanics interact with each other. And yeah, so that's one of the game mechanics that I really enjoyed. And similarly, another thing that adds a bit of complexity to the game is the synthesis system, which allows you to craft or upgrade your equipment. Each piece of equipment will have different attributes like strength and elemental attributes such as fire, earth, water, and more. So in each region, enemies will be weak to a certain attribute. So in order to be successful, you will have to use all of the ingredients you've previously gathered to upgrade your gear. Monster drops are great to improve swords, fish are great to improve bows, and crops are great to improve shields. It's overall pretty simple, but in the end, it ties in all of the different game mechanics as you will need a wide variety of ingredients. Once you've upgraded your gear to a certain point, you will be able to transform it to either keep it well-rounded, to make it really strong, or more focused on a specific elemental attribute. Especially later in game, it becomes important to have proper gear, but typically you will spend some time in between each region to upgrade everything accordingly. And that's pretty much all there is to the gameplay in Worth Life. Just know that while it's pretty short, under 10 hours for the main story, there are 5 different endings, so you can play a bit more if you'd like to discover them, and you can also add a few hours if you're planning to level up all of the skills and unlock all of the appeals and recipes. The game is short and simple, but I enjoyed every minute of it, and was pleasantly surprised with the challenge in certain areas, especially in hard and master mode. However, what I like the most is how it feels like a lot of care and thought was put into every little detail. Not only are the environments and sound design lovely, but I found the game design to be exceptional. There's really not much, but everything is there for a reason. In every region, you'll have to use all of the different skills, and all of these skills are tied so well to the synthesis and appeal system. It's just a very satisfying circle. There's no useless feature, and if something was added or removed, it would break the game, I think. I feel like everything's really well done, and I have so much more appreciation for a small but well-crafted game like this than a large but messy one. Hakama Inc. really exceeded my expectations with Worth Life. I definitely recommend you give it a try if what you saw in this review sounds appealing to you. I know this may not be for everybody if you don't like 2D action platformers, or if you just don't like how this game looks, or if you're looking for a deeper, more complex experience. This is not what you're going to be looking for, but if you want a cozy, yet a bit challenging game to play for an hour or 2 a day, I'm pretty confident you'll have a good time with this one. So have you played Worth Life? Definitely let me know if you did. There's not a lot of reviews out there, so if it turns out I'm the only one that enjoys this game, I hope not. But yeah, let me know what you think of this game. Let me know if you're picking it up or not. Leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.